how to find and remove duplicates in Microsoft Excel. This video is about data cleansing and transforming our spreadsheets into sources of accurate information. In the realm of data management, the first step to cleanliness is recognition. In our dataset, we have 15 records, each representing a unique transaction. The dataset appears diverse, but lurking within it are instances of duplicate data. And what exactly constitutes duplicate data in the context of this dataset? The order numbers appear to be unique, but what about the customer's name? Well, I suppose there's nothing wrong if the same customer places more than one order, and in this column, we'd probably expect the same product to appear across different orders. But if all of these 4 columns appear as identical across more than one row, we'd definitely be suspicious and want to take a closer look. Now, if we have a large data set with hundreds of rows, spotting duplicates can be quite challenging, but we need to accept this challenge. Now that we've pinpointed those pesky duplicates, the next challenge is their safe removal. And luckily for us, Excel has a built-in feature called, yep, you guessed it, remove duplicates. And if we do find any duplicates, we're going to want the entire row to be deleted. And that means we need to start by selecting the entire data range, and then on the data tab, click on remove duplicates. Now, if we leave all the columns ticked, it won't find any duplicates at all, as the order ID is unique for each order. Let's try that again, but this time we'll take the ID column out of the equation. So now a duplicate record is identified if the data in these 4 columns is identical. Looking at the data set, we appear to have 5 duplicate records. And when we click OK, boom, they are gone. Suppose we have a scenario where duplicates span multiple columns. One such scenario could be where customers make repeat purchases of the same product. Now, in this section, we don't want to remove any records, we just want to identify and quantify the number of duplicates. We can use the countifs function, do a search for count, and choose the countifs function. So countifs allows us to check for more than one condition, and the criteria range is where we tell the function which column of data to look at. And we need to make this range an absolute cell reference. And if you want to know more about absolute and relative cell referencing, check out the other videos on my channel. Now remember, we're building this formula so that we can determine which customers have placed repeated orders of the same product. The criteria is going to be exactly the same range. And what does that really mean? Well, if we change the criteria to just B3, we'll be able to see this more clearly. And what we're saying is, have a look inside this column and count how many times John Smith occurs. Which means if we change the criteria to B4, the calculated answer is 3. So by placing the entire range as the criteria, we won't need to autofill the formula down. Excel will simply return all the results for each corresponding row. The second range is the product column, with the same range as the criteria. So now the entire condition of the formula is based on these 2 criteria. Or to put it more simply, the customer name and the product together are counted as one instance. So with regards to duplicates, we would say anything in the list with a value greater than 1 has a duplicate entry, and both the customer name and the product have to be a match. Suppose we had a particularly large data set, and instead of counting the number of duplicates, maybe we want to extract them into a separate little table. We can use Excel's Power Query to identify and extract duplicate records. We'll start by selecting our data set, and we need to include the column headings as well. On the Data tab, we want to transform our data, which is coming from a data range, and Excel will insist that the data range is converted to a table. This is a good thing. And to learn more about tables and structured referencing, you need to click on the link at the end of this video. Once our range is converted to a table, the Power Query editor will open and we'll use the same scenario as before, which is any customers that have placed repeated orders of the same product, we want to know about it. We need to transform this data. What we need to do is group the customer name and the product column. With this Power Query grouping, we can think of John Smith laptop as a single group of text and Alice Johnson smartphone as another group. And because we want to know how many of the same entries exist within a group, we'll need to create a separate counter column. Still inside the Power Query, here is the transformed data, and we want to see only duplicate records, which is any record that has a record count greater than 1. We need to filter this column. And then back on the Home tab, we want to close and load this new data table back into the spreadsheet. And we can load it into this cell here. Now, if the data in the main table changes and causes another duplicate entry, we'll need to click inside the filtered table and refresh the data. Inside the main table, suppose we want to highlight all the cells where the customer has a repeated order of the same product. Select the columns that we want to get highlighted. Click on Conditional Formatting and create a new rule. And we're going to be using a formula. Before we build the formula, we'll choose the formatting first. Now the formula is going to be very similar to the one we built earlier, with a slight twist at the end. Start with the COUNTIFs function. The criteria range is the customer name column. The criteria is just the first cell in the range, which is cell B3. And what does all of this mean? We want to count everything inside this column, but only count the ones that are equal to B3. And for John Smith, the answer would be 1. And for Alice Johnson, the answer would be greater than 1. And in this context, anything greater than 1 is considered a duplicate record. However, having a duplicate name isn't enough to determine a duplicate record. The product column would also need to be equal to C3. Now, if we take Bob Williams as an example, this is what the Excel's COUNTIFs function will do. It will say, I'm on row 5. I will count the number of times that Bob Williams appears inside of this data range. The result would be 2, the other instance being on row 9. But in addition, I will only count it if tablet appears as a product in row 9 as well. In essence, the combined columns of customer name and product only appear once for Bob Williams tablet. So as it stands, every customer has ordered a product, and COUNTIFs can count at least one instance within the data range. But we're only interested in duplicates, which is greater than 1. Click OK, and boom.